Hey guys, MProductions Gaming here, and today I'm gonna do something a bit different from what I usually upload videos about, and that is about the PlayStation 2. More specifically, the line of demo discs that were provided by Sony throughout the 2000s. When I was a kid back in 2003, my parents went to Toys R Us to buy me a PS2 for my birthday. Outside of the Game Boy Advance, this was my first ever home gaming console. As part of the PS2 package deal, my parents went on the included subscription plan, where every month Sony mails their subscribers a copy of their official US PlayStation magazine. Each magazine talked about the biggest gaming news of that month, along with miscellaneous things like game reviews, trivia, developer interviews, and so on. But the thing I cared about the most was the PS2 disc included in each issue. Each disc housed a collection of demos of upcoming and recently released PS2 games. They also had trailers, more interviews, and gameplay hint videos. But most kids my age back then, myself included, couldn't care less about that, to be honest. Outside of my birthday or Christmas, it was rare for my parents to buy me new games, mainly so that I would stay focused in school and not get addicted to gaming, and the fact that we struggled a bit financially growing up, especially when, at the time, all local game stores in my neighborhood sold games, new and used, between $70 to $80 on average. It wouldn't be until a GameStop opened up a decade later that I could get games at affordable prices. So the subscription plan was a good middle ground for both me and my parents. The monthly plan was insanely cheap, and, despite them being demos, I still got tons of games to play per month in return. Years later, when trying to look up the discs I never owned on ROM sites, I quickly found out that not many of them are available online, including the ones I do own, and websites claiming to have full archives of every PS2 demo disc seem to have been taken down a long time ago, meaning that those who are interested in playing them can't. Now, why am I telling you all this? The reason why is actually quite simple. I want to share that experience with you guys as well. I decided to start a project of my own, where I basically take every demo disc I own and make a rip of them online so that they're available for you guys to download and play for yourselves. So if you have a modded PS2, or any decent PC that can run a PS2 emulator, like PCSX2 for example, you're all set. Please keep in mind, I sorta mentioned this at the start, but I'll make it clear now. I was subscribed to the official US PlayStation magazine, emphasis on the US. There were other lines of PS2 demo discs in other countries, such as the official UK PlayStation magazine, commonly known as PSM for short. The demos Sony distributed in other countries are not the same as their American counterpart. They offer different videos, playable demos, main menu graphics, and so on. I only have OPM discs, and at the time of this video, I only plan to archive OPM discs. Now of course, in my time being in the gaming world, I'm sure there'll be people who believe that downloading and playing these ISO files are immoral and a form of evil piracy against Sony. They may also believe that the correct way to play these is to buy them secondhand for exorbitant prices and only play them on original hardware you may not even own anymore, all while ignoring the fact that Sony no longer officially sells these demos in any capacity and stopped distributing them 3 console generations ago, which is about 20 years for those who don't know. So buying them from third-party sellers that Sony will never get a cut of the profits from isn't any more quote-unquote legal than playing it for free on an emulator. And the fact that there are a limited supply of both demo discs and PS2 consoles. So putting price aside, not everyone will have a copy to play for themselves. And by everyone, I meant Americans, or at least people who own American PS2s, because PS2s are region locked, meaning they can only play games made in the same region as the console you bought it from. So kindly ignore those people as you enjoy experiencing how gamers got a taste of upcoming games and kept up on gaming news in a time before you could download demos for free on storefronts like the PSN Store, Xbox Marketplace, and Steam. And before game developers had a social media presence to easily share info about their games to the public. Still, I am aware that there's a gray area surrounding distributing abandonware even if the original creators ceased officially distributing it decades ago. But I'll speak more on that later. Until then, let's move on to the next topic. Now, as I said earlier, I don't have every single issue of the OPM to share with you. I started on issue number 70 when I got my PS2 in 2003, and my parents stopped subscribing by issue number 98 in November 2005. So obviously, I don't own any discs before the 70th issue, and after the 98th one. I also have a few demo discs from different series, like the Jampack discs. I got them from trading my own demo disc with a friend's back in elementary school. We were big Sly Cooper fans back then. My only experience with the series was its most recent game, Sly 2, while my friend's was Sly 1, and we also had playable demos of the games we played the full retail versions of, so we made the decision to trade our demo discs. We never lent each other our original disc back, and we lost contact with each other after he moved away the next school year, so I still have his demo disc while he has mine. Fortunately for you guys, I recently went on eBay and managed to find the same type of disc I lent out all those years ago. So don't worry, that disc, along with the Jampack one, will be dumped online as well. Unfortunately, I also don't own every demo disc released between issue 70 and issue 98 either. For some strange reason, I just never got them. I'd get the magazine itself every month, but some of them wouldn't have a disc inside, and I never knew why. As a kid, I just assumed Sony only gave out demo discs every couple of months, and that it wasn't a regular occurrence. But when I recently started researching this nearly 20 years later, you can imagine the shock on my face when I learned that not only was my assumption wrong, but Sony actually provided a demo disc every month all along. The discs were always placed inside the magazine, and as I remember, they were either inside a sleeve, or the bare disc itself was glued onto a blank page with sticky gel. So I'm willing to bet the disc I never got probably just fell out of their respective magazine at some point during the mailing process. It baffles me though that Sony never thought to put the entire OPM inside a plastic wrap or envelope, so that if a disc fell out of its magazine, it'd still stay inside the wrapping. So I'll try to get my hands on these discs I never got to play all those years ago too. And when I do find them, I'll also dump those online for you all to play as well. If you own a modded PS2 and plan on playing these demo discs only on your PS2, the video is done for you here. Hop into the description down below for the link to my archived game dumps and play away. Honestly hope you enjoy. As for the rest of you planning to play these on an emulator, I just have to warn you, running these games on emulators are a bit tricky. Since each disc holds a multitude of different playable games, the emulator settings that makes one game playable can completely break another. For example, here's me playing 13 on the PCSX2 emulator in 16:9 aspect ratio, and the internal resolution raised up to 8 times the PS2's native resolution. This looks great, especially with the smooth frame rate. But let's see what happens when I try playing another demo on the emulator.
Hi there, Fuzzball.
Remember, he knows Captain Quark.
Hey, you're that robot guy, right?
No, actually, I build robots. I myself am not a robot guy, per se.
Nerd.
And another one.
Hey, Sly! I just spotted something that's going to complicate the mission.
You get the idea. Even when I set the internal resolution back to default and mess around with the settings, the problem still persists with some of the games I tested. And this is just referring to the game's 3D models and textures. As for UI elements, they won't always appear. Here's me playing The Punisher on PCSX2. Outside the occasional slowdown, it plays decently well. If you don't know much about this game, there's a torture mechanic that can be used to interrogate enemies for information. But you have to balance how little and how much you torture the enemy, or else you fail the interrogation. If your only experience with this game is on an emulator, you'd probably wonder why the process is taking so long and or why you keep failing. Now let's bring this demo to an actual PS2 to see what's going on. And there's the answer to that question. There was a meter on screen all along that showed how much pressure you were supposed to apply. But again, if you weren't familiar with this game, you wouldn't have known a meter was supposed to be there, especially since the demo makes no mention about its existence. And if you were familiar with this game before playing the demo, you probably would have assumed the devs just didn't incorporate a meter in this earlier build of the game, and that you're just supposed to figure out how much pressure you need to apply by eye alone. And although that's just one game, there's also the fact that, since all these demos are early versions of a game, there can be cases where the developers could have legitimately not implemented some UI elements into their game at that point. So keep all that in mind when playing via emulator. Unfortunately, there can also be some games that are just screwed no matter what you do with your emulator settings. So I'm hoping by that making these game dumps publicly available, it'll also help the devs behind PS2 emulators like PCSX2 to better perfect it, which in turn helps put these discs into a more playable state for those of you using emulators to play them. Despite this, I'm sure there'll be some of you who still can't play these games on your own, either because you don't have a modded PS2 to play these ISOs, your PC doesn't have the specs to run them on an emulator, or you just don't want to deal with the hassle of constantly changing emulator settings to play each game. Or you just don't have much free time to sit down and play them at all. There's also the chance that if you're watching this video well into the future, my archival project could get cut short due to copyright concerns surrounding me sharing these files, despite them being abandonware. Well, you don't have to worry about that either, because I'll also be uploading full playthroughs of each disc I own and make a playlist on YouTube, so you can sit back, relax, and watch them on your own time. I'll warn you though, some demos may have licensed material in them, mainly music, and demos very rarely have basic audio options to mute music in-game. But even if they do, I still won't remove or mute these sections anyways, both in-game and in editing. In this case, to be quite honest, YouTube demonetization does not concern me in the slightest. I have a job outside of this, so I'm not hesitant to leave that content in the video if it means I lose out on a few cents in ad revenue. The point of me doing all this in the first place is to give you guys the same experience myself and other gamers my age had back in the days of the PS2 generation as close as possible, and removing those segments would ruin that experience of enjoying what's now considered gaming history. But the reality is, at some point, or maybe not at all, after I upload said video, YouTube may force me to remove or mute a part of it to comply with their Content ID policy if they believe my content doesn't fall under fair use, which is fair. I am using their platform, so it's expected to abide by their rules. And as long as they're being enforced as fairly and equally amongst all YouTubers as they claim, then I have no issue. So in the case that that does happen, I have backups of all these videos on my alternate channel on Odyssey. Link to my Odyssey page is also in the description down below. I originally planned to play all these demos on an emulator to take advantage of higher resolutions and make the videos look nicer for you all to watch. Unfortunately, as I explained earlier, due to the issues that come with playing these on an emulator, that won't be feasible. Therefore, I'll just stick to recording off original hardware and original resolution. I hope that'll be fine with you guys. In addition, the only type of commentary that'll be in each video will only be on-screen text, giving details on the disc itself, the games and extras inside, and fun facts about the game, such as glitches that got patched out of the final retail version of whatever demo I'm playing. I won't be speaking at all in any of the OPM videos to come. The only audio you'll hear will be pure gameplay. With all that said, for those of you who stuck around to the end of this video, I thank you so much for listening to a small bit of my little trip down memory lane, leading to the creation of this archival project. Playing through these discs for the OPM playlists made so many old childhood memories flood right back to me. For those of you who want to play these games yourselves, head on over to the description down below for details and a link to my archival project, and download whichever demos you want to play. If you're looking for a specific one, I've also put a link to an OPM wiki page in the description that has a simple list of every playable game and video that are on each demo disc. And as I said in the beginning, as I collect new discs I never owned, they'll be archived as well for you to download, along with a respective video of me playing through them for your convenience as well. Have fun!
Dear Alexis, you are by far the hottest man to ever grace my PS2 console. Will you marry me? Signed Sue VH, Denver, Colorado. P.S. Included is a picture of me. Sue, is the S in your name silent, or can I just call you Ooh-wee? I'm sorry, but I just have far too much love for myself for there to be room for anybody else. But rest assured, I will be back with yet another cool move just for you.